G'day and welcome back to another video from your boy SPORTSCOB. Today, it's not a match day experience vlog, it's something a little bit different. It's a video that I thought I would make just because of the sheer amount of following I invested into the Big Bash season. I thought I would review all the team's performances this season in a quick little summary tier list where I rate every single team's performance based on how they did this season. Now, I know what you're thinking. I'm dressed in Sixers gear. I'm a Sixers fan. It's going to be biased, right? Well, I'm going to try my absolute very best to put on my objective glasses and just have a deep dive into the season. But without any further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, let's start with the most obvious first and foremost. Let's start with the team where everyone knows where they're going to go. There's no shadow of a doubt, no question where they belong. It's obviously going to be the Sydney Thunder in the F position. No, we will get to them. It's going to be the Perth Scorchers, and I'm going to straight away put them in the S tier. They won the title. They were the most complete team all season. They had such a consistent outfit, and players would step up and have innings of their lives when they needed to. You had the likes of Hardy, Bancroft, Inglis all hitting 90 knots, all getting so close to centuries. You had your Turners coming in and hitting match-winning knocks in finals, and especially in finals. You had Hobson, Connolly. Their depth was insane. Eskenazi even came halfway through the season and just started hitting them like absolute beach balls. Even their bowling lineup. Their bowling lineup was phenomenal. It was the best. They were the most complete team all season. Best batting outfit, best bowling outfit. Even their fringe bowlers who'd come in and have a bit of a bowl. You know, your Wild Thing, Matthew Kelly, Payne as well. Hardy even could come in and have a bowl when needed to. And unfortunately, as a Sixers fan, I have to admit, I have to hold my hands up and I have to admit, great cricket when I see it. And it sucks because they've now earned their 5th BBL title. Now they're outright the best team that the Big Bash has ever seen, which breaks my heart because we could have been up there as well. But on to next season, as they always say. Moving on to the next team, I'm going to address my boys, the Sydney Sixers. I have to get them out of the way early. Look, at the start of the season, we weren't that great. We were looking about it at the C range, maybe even the F mark. But we started to progress through. We started to find our rhythm a little bit. We started to push towards that B rank. Silk was such an underrated player this season. He had a phenomenal season and arguably our best seasonal player, because I'm not counting Smith in that aspect because he came in, hit him, and then left. I'm just counting like a season-long player. He was our best player. Bird, Abbott, Dwarshus all chipping in as well. Todd freaking Murphy, the GOAT. And as I'm filming this, he's currently playing his first ever cap in India. Well done. Well done, the GOAT. Anyway, we started to push towards that B, maybe even the A range. We started to look like potentially even an S team when the likes of Stephen Smith came in. But the problem with Steve Smith coming in was that he was always going to leave. He was going to leave at one point. I don't care what he did. He was going to leave at one point. Who was going to fill in for him? Sorry, my hair's a bit curly at the moment. Turns out the answer was nobody. In the qualifying final, we had Moses and Silk developing a partnership again. They got out under ridiculous circumstances and we just capitulated from there. And against the Heat, no one could fight. We made that A range by making the qualifying final, but the fact that we went out in back-to-back sets in such underwhelming circumstances means I have to put us at a B at best. I'm even tempted to put us in a C, to be honest, just because of the way we capitulated from where we were. I'm just going to leave us at the B at the moment, but that is subject to change. Now, on to another team that probably should have done a bit better than what they did, the Melbourne Renegades. Look, they started the season phenomenally. I think since BBL08, since that famous capitulation by the Melbourne Stars for the Renegades to win their first and only Big Bash title, I think, if I'm not mistaken, they had won about 6 or 7 games since then. I know in the 3 or 4 years since then. But they started this campaign on absolute fire. They started it on the nitrous and they went 3-0, and I think they tripled or doubled their winning total. They considerably added to it anyway, and they were looking like a team that really had their crap together. Especially after the memes of the draft, you know, they spent their big pick, I think it was on Liam Livingstone, and of course, in typical Melbourne Renegades fashion, Livingstone pulled out of the Big Bash campaign entirely. Nevertheless, they continued to invest heavily in their inputs. Martin Guptill came in, a lot of promise. didn't really deliver at all. He just had a very underwhelming season. I think his best was like a 30-something. Dre Ross was a great addition for them, actually, during the cameo stint in which he stayed. But after that, they sort of just mellowed out a bit, went around the B, C range, sort of. They almost limped into the finals. They didn't quite limp. They had injuries to Richo, didn't help. They needed Fuzzy to come in. Corey Broccoli, Bocconcini, Rocchicioli, I think that's how you pronounce his name. He came in and had some dabs, but ultimately that wasn't enough against the likes of the Heat players in that final. And I think I'm also going to give them a B mark, just simply because they should have done better. They probably should have been here. If they won the final, I would have given them an A, just because of the fact that they were actually able to make finals and go deep in finals, which they didn't do because they were eliminated in their first game. I'm going to put them at the same level as the Sixers, because I think there was definitely potential there to go up to that next notch, but left it in the tank a bit. Now, on to our crosstown rivals, and I dare say it's going to be our first F of the tier list, the Melbourne Stars. They looked promising, actually, from their draft. They brought in the likes of Wood. They retained Clark Rubber with their retention loyalty pick. They were dealt a massive blow when Glenn Maxwell was out. Stoinis was struggling in and out all season with injury. A huge plus for them, though, a massive plus, was the fact that Bo Webster is now a legitimate all-rounder. And, mind you, he has the ability to go from seam to spin. And that's crazy. He almost changed some games completely on their heads just by being able to do that alone. And he had some fantastic knocks. He was by far their best player all season. They had individual flashes of brilliance from their players. Clark Rubber with a century in their first game. You know, they were looking like a team that could push for finals. His name's Joe Clark, but we just call him Clark Rubber because of obviously the famous Australian swimming pool brand. They had a few good innings from the likes of Larkin and even Cartwright. Hilton Cartwright always performs. Stoinis finally found his rhythm after a few games. Then he got injured again, and then he found his rhythm again. So it was sort of just teetering up there. Yeah, not really thereabouts. They never pushed for finals. They never came anywhere close to pushing for finals. And that's why I'm going to give them an F, because they ranked last on the table as well. That's a pretty easy F in my opinion. That marks the halfway mark. We're going to move on to the Brisbane Heat now. So the Brisbane Heat, they're a team that started absolutely atrociously. I think they were 0-3 or something at the start of the season, and they were looking like a team that was just going to settle in nice and comfortable right next to the Melbourne Stars here in this F slot. However, they started to find their mojo, and this was before the likes of Usman, Matty Renshaw, and Marnus. They got an early injection in the form of Nisa, who really helped them actually, and they started to make their way up the table a little bit. And then they sort of dropped a little bit, sort of just were thereabouts, because towards the end of the season, it was only the Sixers and the Scorchers that really started to push away from everyone else. Everyone else was battling for those final three slots. Everyone at some point was actually trying their absolute hardest to not make the finals, and it was quite something to watch actually. It was a bit of a mess. They made the finals. They were here. They were here even with the likes of Marnus, Matty Renshaw and Usman, because none of them, other than Renshaw, really did anything towards the back end of the regular season. And then Usman and Marnus started to find their mojo. They beat the Thunder and moved themselves up into a B position, and then they beat the Renegades, and then it was a contest between the Sixers and Heat to see who would move up into the A position. It was easily the Heat. The Heat almost collapsed in that game. Nisa dragged them over the line, but at the same time, the Sixers were so appalling. And so at this point, the Scorchers and the Heat were both in that A slot. The Scorchers moved up because they won. The Heat, oh my goodness me. Like, I gave the Heat no chance, right? I gave them no chance. Checking the updates to the score, because I wasn't watching it, I was out. The Scorchers need something like 90 off 50. And I'm like, hello? The Scorchers are like 3 for something, and they're a chance here. And the Heat got a few more wickets. They got Inglis out, and they even got Turner out in an absolute frenzy of a run out. And they were there. They were in the prime position to beat the Scorchers to earn their second Big Bash title in Scorcherland. Nevertheless, the Heat earned themselves an A slot. They can be proud of what they did in the finals. They pushed. They went all the way. They pushed the Scorchers, the title faves, the shoo-ins, all the way, and they nearly came up trumps. And also, pluses for the Heat. Spencer Johnson, he came in from absolutely nowhere and started tearing wickets down like there was no tomorrow. Josh Brown as well, another name that came out of absolutely nowhere. Hit an amazing knock against my boys up at the Gabba. And also McSweeney. McSweeney is a name, he used to play for the Renegades. He's a name that's come in and out of the Big Bash, but never really developed any sort of consistency in a lineup. But he did that. He solidified his spot with the Heat, and well done to him as well. He produced some quality innings. Okay, we are starting to get to the juicy part. Next up is the Hobart Hurricanes. And yes, they were a team, right, that at the start of the season, everyone was putting their hands up going, whoa, we need to be wary of the Hobart Hurricanes. They've got the likes of Neesham coming in, Paddy Dooley, Shadab. They had Asif Ali. They had obviously the likes of McDermott and Wade. Even Darcy Short, even though Darcy Short completely flopped this season. And they're a team where you were just like, okay, shoe-ins for finals. How far are they going to go? No, they went completely the other way. They just never really got going at all. McDermott and Wade were incredibly inconsistent. Their best player this season was Paddy Dooley. They had a slight injection with Zach Crawley halfway through the season. They beat the Heat on the last day to put themselves in the finals contention via a massive, massive Heat capitulation. But ultimately, the Thunder beat the Stars and they missed the finals. And I'm going to give them an F. They're going to slot in nicely right next to the Melbourne Stars here in the next F slot because they should have done so much better. You know, you got renowned T20 players coming in all parts of the globe, even down under here with all the players that you're familiar with, and they flopped. They lost a lot of games that they shouldn't have lost. Even it took Tim David to almost get them over the line against the Heat and the Gabba. They just left it way too late, and they left themselves with too much to do. So that's why I'm giving them an F. Next up is the Adelaide Strikers, and arguably another F team, although despite them not making finals, I'm actually not going to give them an F. I'm going to give them a C. Just purely based on the fact they started amazingly. They started like a team that was going to be up there. I thought they were up there with the Scorchers to be genuine contenders. I thought the grand final was going to be contested between these two teams, but apparently not. Injuries and form started to just slump them down the table. They had injuries to Siddle, Lynn departed, and after that, they really were affected. Not even Short's knocks could bring him out of the deep. Short was by far and far their best player, the best player, I think, of the Big Bash season. Rashid had a very, very underwhelming season by his incredibly high standards. Hose had some really consistent knocks, and DeGrandum as well. They were two of their most consistent players. And when Carey and Head came in, I think it actually did them worse, to be honest. Like Carey, not so much. He had one or two good innings, but Head, I don't know what happened with Travis Head. I really don't know. I brought him into my Supercoach team expecting, he's $120,000 for those of you who know your Supercoach. He's an absolute bargain. And no, just completely disappeared off the face of the planet. So yeah, I'm going to slot them into the C spot just because I thought they could have done better. I don't think their season was an absolute catastrophe like these two I've named. Even though they didn't make finals, I'm just going to put them in the C slot. Which leaves us with my favourite team to pick on. Even if I wasn't a Sixers fan this season, it's hard not to pick on them for what they absolutely dished up in round 2. All out for 15. 15 freaking runs. 15. It's hard to put them above the F slot when they set an international record for worst ever T20 innings. It was something to behold. I was at a party, so I wasn't really witnessing it live, but I was checking the updates and I was like, there's another wicket. It's another one. And Thornton, I think, took like 5 for 3 or something. It was insane. Honestly, when you set an international record, you deserve an F. You deserve an F regardless of what you do. Unless you win the title, it's going to be an S. No, it's an F spot. Being serious here, they only had 1 or 2 players that really stood out and shone throughout the whole season. Definitely the likes of Ollie Davies. He had a phenomenal season. He was their best player. Hales, when he was there, he was actually hitting them pretty well. Sams had a very hit or miss season. He was either taking 4 for something or just going for 40 and getting out on a duck. They had way too many ducks from the likes of their top order, even though Jilks actually was really good in patches. He found his form after a shocking first few rounds. And when they were injected with the likes of Dave Warner, it did nothing. It did absolutely, in fact, it was detrimental to them. You know, the hype around him was insane. It was like David Warner, renowned IPL, best ever IPL non-Indian batsman T20 player, came in and just did nothing. They scraped their asses into the final. I don't know how they did that, but they got eliminated first round anyway, so it's not like they did much. Although, I will be fair to them, the weather did have a bit of a say in that. Although, in saying that, they saw the rain was coming. Everyone could see the rain was coming that day. It was blatant on the radar. There were patches in Sydney that were being swept with rain. It was only a matter of time before Olympic Park was hit. Why didn't they go harder? They fell short by 8 runs on the DLS method, but they could have gone harder. They took ages. They took like 2 or 3 overs just to get their eye in, and they started whacking them around. If I knew the rain was coming, you would just set hell for leather. You would just have to. You can't leave anything out there, and they did. And ultimately, their season was a flop. They had a few absolute capitulations of innings, all out for 15. They capitulated against us. They didn't even reach a century. They had a few really low-scoring innings against the Gades, against the Strikers, even against the Canes. I don't know how they made the finals, but I think them making the finals makes their season look better than what it actually was. It was an F season. It was an F. You can even ask my mate Dommy. He will completely agree with me 100%. So anyway, there is your Big Bash 12 tier list. That is my season review, done and dusted for another season. It's going to be another 11 months until we see Big Bash, which I'm very sad about. Anyways, I hope you've liked this small little intermission, sort of filler episode that we've got in between matches. We've got the Sydney Derby coming up in 2 days' time, and I dare say that is going to be absolutely spicy. Western Sydney Wanderers against a now informed Sydney FC. Who knows? We might actually get the chockies. But till then, I've been your boy SPORTSCOB. If you want to stay up to date with us, make sure to hit that railroad crossing notification bell. Ding, 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 ding. So you do not miss an upload. We do not miss any surprise fillers like the one that we had today. And I've been your boy SPORTSCOB. Take care, and we'll see you very shortly. Yes! Yes! Todd Murphy got his first wicket. Our sixer, our boy, he's going to have an outstanding career. Come on, Todd. Yes, Todd.